Seems like we're live. 1 second. Yes, we are live. So good evening, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining us, for joining our online event today. My name is Maria. I'm an event manager at Lift 99. Lift 99 is the most vibrant startup community, both in Tallinn and Kyiv, where we also run hubs or co-working centers. And we start our week with the event with our community member, Alex Briukhovetskyi, who is marketing strategist and startup entrepreneur, also co-founder and COO of Neyra. And Alex will talk about marketing strategy for startups. So Alex, please, the stage is yours. Present yourself. And if you have any questions throughout the talk, please fill it in under the video, and Alex will try to answer them during his conversation. So enjoy and have a nice conversation. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining, and thanks Lift 99 for this opportunity. As Maria mentioned, my name is Alex, and my background is fully and mostly in marketing. I have a master's degree in strategic marketing, which I gained at the Greenwich University in London. And right after that, where I get like all of theoretical knowledges in marketing, I understood that this won't be enough. So I've joined one of the biggest educational companies in the world called Kaplan. And there I get my way from the intern to marketing manager in a couple of years. And after that, I've started my own marketing agency, and I did some educational consulting for companies across the globe. And also I've started my own startup. So I'm also like a startup entrepreneur, and I'm co-founder at startup called Neyra. Neyra, it's also in the marketing field, and we do marketing analytics and sales analytics for any size of the companies, and basically we simplify their life, and I'm going to talk about that in my next slides. And the keynote, so the things we're going to talk about today is, first of all, why marketing strategy is so important when building a startup, and also about what are those and don'ts in this way, what are tips and tricks regarding the plan and the strategy, and should you outsource your strategy development or should you not? And the last thing about the whole current situation and how COVID-19 affects the whole marketing approach, and should you change anything or should you just hold on and wait? So this is like the things. And as mentioned, feel free to type in your questions, anything. I'm going to be monitoring my chat and answer them as we go. So first of all, is it important? And to understand the importance, we need to clarify one thing. So as I mentioned, across my career, I worked with more and consulted more than like 100 different business owners and entrepreneurs on the companies of any size, from like small to like really huge corporations. And most of the time, like 90% of the time, people, they were misunderstanding and misinterpreting the world strategy. And just to clarify, there are some things, like the first is goal. Basically, this is something that we want to achieve. After we clarify our goal, we then move to objective, right? And the objective is something that we measure success with. And only after we clarify the objective of anything we do about the marketing, then we move to strategy. Strategy is like a crucial and the main thing that will, like, it is the core basically of all activities, and it's really important one to think about, but it cannot be done without understanding your goals and objective first. When we come up with the strategy, we then move to tactics. And the tactics is basically how we're going to execute this strategy. And the combination of different collection of different tactics is called program. And the last thing after everything above, we go to the plan itself. And like marketing strategy and marketing plan is the most common thing that people confuse. If you will go to Google right now and type in the marketing strategy for startups, some of the links on the first page will follow you to the marketing plan. So basically explaining you how you should do your strategy. So we today are going to just specifically focus on this one thing, the strategy. I'm going to talk about how to come up with this, what are the key components of the strategy, how you which things you should avoid, which things you should focus on, and so on. So there's like a million different reasons why the startups fails, right? And one like of the biggest is there's no market need and so on. But if you're gonna, I'm sure that some of you are familiar with this slide, but if you go through the all reasons, you might find that like around 80% of them should be and could be covered if you do your marketing strategy correctly. If you plan out all your activities, it will like assure that you will success for 80% of the time, like 80% chances. And so it's like super really important. So answering the questions, like, is it important? Yes, completely. And I myself, and I encourage you to think of the marketing strategy as a big door, right? A door before your goal, your destination, which is like become the best startup in the world or the most successful company in your niche and so on, which goals you determine. And this door is like super big and it has a lot of locks, a lot of keyholes inside. And to enter the your goal, basically to open this door, you would need to access each lock, find each like key for specific keyholes, and these keyholes is basically the components of your marketing strategy. And the first keyhole and the first thing that you need to answer, you need to find a perfect key for is your customer. And the customer, there are like a couple of things that comes within this keyhole and things that you need to understand. But it's always the biggest and the most crucial ones. I remember when I first saw this slide, it was just like 5 or 7 years ago. I was like completely, it changed everything I thought about the customers. When I ask my my clients, like, who are your clients? They are saying that they are people from 18 to 70 living in cities or out suburbs, like basically giving me nothing. Even if they say they're like this age born, they're wealthy and successful and so on, that also gives me nothing. In this case, like if we compare Prince Charles and Ozzy Osbourne, they are demographically absolutely similar. They are born in the same age, in the same place. They are both successful in business and wealthy and so on. They both go to restaurants, but their personality, their lifestyle, the products they use, it like differs dramatically. And actually, like demographics in most of the cases means absolutely nothing. That's the first thing. The other thing is that your product can satisfy both needs of Prince Charles and Ozzy Osbourne, for example, even though these needs would differ, and you need to segment your customers and come up with the like proper segmentation of them. Firstly, by segmentation means like selecting a group of people among all your customers, taking them into one group. And usually I suggest you to do this by identifying their intentions, right? So first thing, like the second thing after segmentation, you need to come up with the intention of your clients. And like in this case, a person is not buying parts of skateboard to ride on in the park. They want to have a beautiful time with their friends, enjoying them some like really fast driving thing under the knees. And this is like super important to understand that your your customers, they're not buying your product. They're buying something they can use it with. If person is buying Rolex, right, it's not just like they are buying a thing to look time for. They are buying some status, some class, something that they can show off with, or basically satisfying their emotional needs. There are three types of characteristics of your product in your customer views. And this is like a practical meaning, a practical context, which is basically, for example, in the keys, in the watch, like Rolex, a person can look time, and like the social part is that they want to show off. Emotional, they feel something like really warm, since like, I don't know, what they love. So understanding intention and segment your customers by intention is super important to unlock this keyhole. Along this presentation, I will suggest you some tools that you can work with when coming up with your strategy, or maybe something like online tools or offline or whatever. And if you have, like, again, any questions, please shout out. The first thing that would like to start with about the customers and tools, it's a book. It's an old school book in this internet era. You can find it online, and I really encourage you to read it. It's called Jobs to be Done by Anthony Ulrich. And this book, like the main gasp of it, the main topic is that understanding what your customer desire in the end is the most important thing. So he's explaining basically the ways of how to determine this, how to understand it, such as like in-depth interviews, secondary marketing analysis, and so on. But also explaining how you can build a profile based on jobs. And when you understand a job that your customer is doing, then you can understand which pains are coming along, which problems, and also which things make it even more successful. For example, if a person is buying a car, then that means that he's buying, or her is buying a way to communicate to work, for example, right? And then he's also like, the problems might be if the tire go flat, or if it's like electric car that your battery will charge off. And the success is when a person will get to do the work fast, or if the car is good looking, or like any other characteristic of your product. So this book, it's like explains a lot about how to build your product upon your customer needs. And the second thing I would like to suggest you to do is in-depth interviews. So basically, if you start to work on your future plan, or if you're trying to improve your product, you would always need to constantly communicate with your customers. And one of my favorite way to do this, and I've done it for all of my clients, it's in-depth interviews. So basically, it's approach to interview. It's semi-structured or unstructured interview, where you are asking your buyer, your person, a question like, can you tell me a story about your experience using my product, like product in my niche, for example. And they're gonna tell you the things that are only important to them, the things that they've remembered. Is it like good experience or bad experience, problems or successes? It will tell you a lot, and this can lie as a core of your marketing strategy. The last thing here, and I really encourage you to do this, it's collecting constantly and analyzing feedback from your customers. It can be done by online tools such as SurveyMonkey, or if you just like in the stage of MVP of your product, then by user testing. And after collecting and analyzing the feedback, you can make an important decisions in your business. So basically, answering the what is the key to our keyhole, number one, which is customer, is a customer development and jobs to be done concept. This is the most important thing here. Moving to the next keyhole, which is competition. And regarding the competition, here is like a landscape of different startups in our niche, in niche Neyra. As I mentioned, we are a data analytics tool, so we compete with companies such as Google Analytics, Bupra, and so others. And we've selected two parameters, which is the most important for our clients, which is price and setup simplicity. Because usually, if you have ever tried using Google Analytics on your own, you would see that this is like completely messed up thing, which is really outdated, has a lot of flaws, issues, and problems. And there's like a million tutorials on web how to do this. And if something that should be so simple is as complicated as that, means that something is wrong with this. And there are like a lot of things, parameters that we've selected, but this is like the most important ones. So we put them here and analyzed where we want to go or where we want to be, and move everything into this direction. Like all the messages, all the sales processes, everything comes from our understanding, like our positioning basically. And positioning relies heavily on your competition. So understanding competition is the second most important thing coming up with the strategy. And when you ask anything like marketing agency, for example, that want to help you, they're gonna send you a brief. They will always ask you for competitors in your niche. And hold on, I got a question here. Is it important to consider the factor that people can lie when you interview them? Yeah. So usually you would need to make the atmosphere that everything is under their control. So during this in-depth interview, you are just like a person who interested in their stories, rather than you have some basically thoughts on what they are saying. So you shouldn't like argue with the person who are interviewing with. You shouldn't like ask them some provocative questions and so on. You're basically just a person who is interested in their stories, and that's it. And in this case, we should trust that they are not lying. If you created enough atmosphere that they can say you everything they think of. And beautiful thing about the in-depth interviews is when you, for example, interviewing your competitor clients. In this case, they cannot lie because they're telling the experience they had with, not about your product. When you're asking about your product, it will be differs a lot from what they originally think. Trust me. Yeah, that's basically it. And I think not moving forward, I will search for all your questions in one place, and I will just basically come back to every slide and answer those questions. But if you have any questions, just type in and I'm going to answer them in the end. So yeah, coming back to competition, right? So we identify where we are at, and there are a couple of things that I use for competitors analysis. So the first question is like where I can find my competitors, and I saw some examples where people are like saying that I don't have any competitors, and this is completely nonsense because every company has a competitor. It might be a direct competitor, it might be indirect competitor, or it might be a product substitute. And usually when it comes to startups, if there is no direct competitor, there might be a product substitute. So like if you're inventing something completely new with a new approach, that's cool. But that means that people were using something before. Like the Thomas Ford said, that if I will ask a customers what they want, they will say that they want a horse that rides faster, not a car. So every product has a competitor, and there are like a few ways to find yours. The one that I use is if I would go basically, I would become my customer in my shoes of the customer, and I would go to Google or Quora and look up for the answers to the questions they might have. Like in our case, for example, I was looking for like how to improve my metrics or which metrics are important to follow, something like this. And usually there is like ads coming up on Google, or founders or employees of different companies, they answer those questions on Quora. This is a very cool way of driving the traffic to your website in a really like nice looking way, in the helpful way. And that's really nice. And the first thing that I would do, I would like search up for these questions to find out which companies have like representativity in these sectors. And then I would go to, when I find at least some of the competitors, right, or I know who are my competitors from the end, I would go to tools such as like a Get App website and type in the company's name, and there is a subsection called alternatives. So I would go to this alternative subsection, and there is like a full list of like 20 to 30 companies in each niche for every competitor I was looking for. The last thing is Oler. That's a platform where you can analyze how your competitors are performing, how they're doing, when was their last, I don't know, the fundraising round or something like this, like the market share, how many revenue they got, and so on. And this is like really interesting one, because you can see what's the revenue of the company, and then see like what are they selling the price for, and you can like roughly, it's super unclear, but you can roughly calculate how much customers they got, and some like really cool insights about your competitors. So when we find out who our competitors is, we need to spy on them. And spying on your competitors all the time is a super important thing to do. And luckily for us, there are like a lot of tools that help us with this. And the first thing is website traffic and links analysis. Here we can use SEMrush or SimilarWeb. This is both really good platforms. I use myself SimilarWeb mostly. I have a Chrome extension in Google Chrome, and every time I visit any web page, I can just quickly see like what is number of people visiting this website, where from, like where they're running their ads, and so on. The next thing, I would analyze their social media activity. And social media is a beautiful way where a company can show their vision, mission, I don't know, communicating with customers, and so on. And Sprout Social is one of the best platforms for this, as well as Hootsuite, and I use myself Sprout. In this platform, you can just simply type in your competitor name, and it will show you like their activity, backlinks, and so on. The next thing which I would analyze is ads. A lot of companies, they're spending money on ads, not just like growth hacking as startups usually do, but just like doing some proper, I don't know, outreaching ads, and using the platforms such as AdBeat and AdEspresso. You can easily see types of these ads, some examples. For example, if you will set up any ad in AdEspresso, it will show you some of the examples of ads running online from your competitors in your niche. And this is really a cool way to understand what others are doing in order to repeat it or not. So this is really important thing to do. And the last thing here is to analyze the web mentions. And there are like two cool platforms that I use. The first one is Google Alerts, where you can just like type in the thing that you want to follow. It will automatically send you emails with everything new happening in this thing. And another is Mention, where you can type in your competitor name directly and see like a lot of mention, where they were mentioned, which I don't know, online magazines they were print on, or where the traffic is coming from. And you can also follow this as you go. And in order, like, so this type of keyhole is the one that you have many keys for, right? So your customer is seeing you as one of the potential solution for the problem. And your goal here is to make it clear why you are better than any others. And I highly recommend using here USP, unique selling points. It's basically a parameter which is fully saying how you are different. I don't know, what are your main feature? Are you the longest key or the shortest? Are you the heaviest one or the lightest, and so on? So basically, helping your clients identify why you are different and why you should choose them above others is a really nice way to attract them. There are like USPs are really closely tied to brand messaging that a company has. So this is our next thing. Keyhole number 3 is brand messaging. You can like guess a lot of companies by just when they're just saying what they are doing, right, or their slogan. And it's super important to understand yours one. Key here is always start with why. There is a cool book on this, and I'm also going to share it with you later on, where basically anything you are doing regarding your marketing activities should always focus on your whys more than on your whats or whens, for example. Me as a startup co-founder, I know everything about my product. It's super exciting for me to share with people how complicated was this challenge or that challenge, how we solved that, what features my product has. And there's like 5 features and then 10 features and so on. Features is really cool, but the first thing you should emphasize on is why you are doing this. I love this landing page from Lead Formally. They are saying here, capture and convert up to 300% more leads. So they are not asking, they are not saying how they're gonna do it or using which, like, I don't know, algorithms and so on. They're basically saying you answering question why. Why should I buy this product? And why should I like follow this link and so on. So always start with why is really a nice thing of adjusting your messaging correctly. And the last but not least keyhole is measuring and analyzing. And a key here is data-driven mindset. So if you have this type of mindset, that I'm sure you will be successful. If you don't, this is something that you need to work on a lot. When you're making any business decision, it's super crucial to make it upon some data. So, for example, I'm gonna change a button from my website from yellow to red one, and this decision is based on nothing, right? So you need to understand what are your metrics. And this is like really big problems that the people do usually. When you're doing something, if you're not measuring it, you'd better not be doing this at all, because you don't know where you're going, which direction. Is it all right? Is it not all right? And so on. So first thing you should do, you should set up your metrics and you should follow them, so-called KPIs. For example, I can get with this marketing strategy 100 leads or 200 customers and so on. This first thing that is a problem with analysis, people don't set up the metrics. The second thing is that data is wrong. So when you're making any decision, it's important that you are sure, you're 100% sure the data you got is right. When we saw a lot of examples with, for example, Google, where on the big volume, big number of tests we run, the data is wrong, and making any decision based on the wrong data is worse than guessing, because you're for sure making something incorrect. The next thing is that there's like no connection between anything that you collect data from. For example, you're collecting data from your website, in your Google Analytics. You collect data from your sales in your CRM. You collect data from your ad accounts somewhere. So this is like 3 sources of data, and they are not connecting between each other. You know that some people saw your ad, some people visited your website, and some people converted into sales. You cannot say that this is like one person did all these things, or some person just dropped out here, or so on. So no connection is also a big problem. And the last but not least, it's misinterpreted data. Like data is just in numbers, and to do this, it's only up to you. So only you can understand this data and make any decisions upon it. And the data that you like analyzed wrongly is also worse than guessing. So always be responsible, always be clear about the way you think, about the way you analyze something. And there is like a really cool solution to all of these problems that are, which is our Neyra. And this is basically my why I'm working on this, is to make this all things together and working. And regarding your measuring and analyzing your keyhole, the main key here is to use tools like this. Yeah, this is regarding this whole marketing door that we have unlocked. And the next topic is, should you outsource your marketing strategy or should you do it by yourself? When people asking me, can you do my marketing strategy for me when they have a startup, usually I would go like this. So no, for sure not. As I mentioned before, like there are some things that you can outsource and something that you cannot. Like setting up goal, objective, and strategy is something that you should do by yourself. Like if you are like a startup or entrepreneur. And then you can outsource the other things, such as like tactic, this program and plan and so on. So you should say, for example, we want to get like 20 new customers, and like this is our brand messaging, so this is how we want to be represented. Please do something with that. And then the marketing agency, they can say, okay, we need to do the Facebook ads, drive them on this landing page and so on. So basically they're going to suggest you. It's much more efficient than giving them all to do by themselves. Of course, if you're like super big company and corporation, and like for the next quarter, you need to understand what your strategy is going to be, you might be using some of the top-notch marketing agencies. But if you're at the startup, no one knows your product and no one knows your customers better than you. And this should be the same as you grow. Like I saw a company with I don't know, like 50 people, 100 people, employees inside, and the owners of those companies, they were like so disconnected with the product itself. They made really poor decisions. So this always should be relied on the customers and on your insights about them. So like the marketing outsourcing is cool for something like depending on your strategy, but strategy should be always be done by you. Regarding the tips and tricks about the marketing strategy, it will be mostly about the marketing execution rather than strategy, but I think you'll still find it useful. The first one is not repeatable growth hacking. I'm sure that most of you have heard about the growth hacking, and it was like super popular even like 5 or 7 years ago. These days, even more. It became such a like buzzword as I don't know, influencer and so on. Important thing here, and which I really encourage you to do, is not repeat it. Like if you remember the Lady Gaga who went with the costume in Meet, Like if anyone, I'm sure there were some people who were doing the same. Nobody wrote about them. Basically, when you are repeating something, it like something really cool for the first, which is done the first time, it's really nice and creative and mind-blowing. If you repeat that, it might be not be so good and even sometimes give you the worst results. So always um, be sure about you are not repeating something, but rather like making your own way into growth hacking. That said, there are still a lot of cool and beautiful tactics and best practice that you can use for your company. The next thing that I want you to understand that any PR is good. I worked with a lot of companies where they were like a separate a separate website, basically just bullying and like I don't know, talking about anything they do. And we saw that a lot of traffic coming to this website from this page. For example, let's take Elon Musk, right? Who said, okay, this is bulletproof glass, so I'm gonna throw a stick on it, and it broke. And every like New York Times, like anywhere it was written about this, so it's like really good PR for him. The second thing is the power of one, as we say, influencers. So there's this brand called ICOS, and it's basically really popular thing in Ukraine and all over the world. And they are making their marketing based on the like influencers, based on the referrals. Let's take, I don't know, their Instagram page and see that like usual number of likes is like really small compared to one of many of their brand ambassadors, right? Who has like um, much more reach. They have like a lot of engagement. They are basically the people they follow this brand ambassadors, they trust them, they trust they are doing, and rely a lot on this would be the best for you. What it means, like power of one, is also not just like influencers and brand ambassadors, but also that you should be doing the most of your marketing within your, like, I don't know, Instagram page or Facebook or LinkedIn, whatever. You should be the biggest brand ambassador of your product, and you should like tell it to everyone all the time you are working on this. And this will encourage them to basically use your product for sure. The next thing is nurturing. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but basically nurturing is a process when you making your client, your website visitor, for example, even more interested in your product. So they will become these loyal customers, and they will have this NPS on the good notch and so on. You have a different stage of the customer life cycle, and you adjust the score to each of the stage, and then you do it by email marketing, chatbot marketing, sales calls, different ways. The process of nurturing. So any person who sign up as a visitor on your website, they cannot be sold to straight away. Usually it takes some time for them to make a decision. So you just need to make sure that you making their life easier and constantly reminding about yourself. The next thing that which we did, for example, for Neyra, which a lot of cool companies did, is a beta release. Beta release is a process when you release your product to a small number of people. First of all, it's easier for you to collect the feedback in this way, and the second thing, it creates exclusivity sort of perception in your customer minds about your product. Okay, I want to be a part of something like small niche and so on. Slack, for example, did this when they were just launching. They did it as a limited preview and it's limited release, so you need to be better on this. Another company is Superhuman. It's email tool, which, for example, myself, I was trying to get into like for a couple of months. And the other thing, for example, it can be Dota 2, which is esports, which is basically game. And when they released, they managed to do like the biggest result among other games they had, with their hitting 300,000 like daily gamers within just 2 years of beta, where people basically were given a keys that they should exchange with other players. This also cool example of tip and tricks that you can use. I think the last one that I'm going to share with you today is enemy of your enemy is a friend. So let's take Airbnb as an example. When they were just launched and launching, and they wanted to attract more customers, they targeted specifically Craigslist users. So Craigslist is like a platform where you submit your flat or anything. They were targeting just those people who were like posting about their flat, saying that, okay, I saw your ad, it's really nice. I encourage you to use Airbnb for your future use. I don't know. And it went viral. It performed really good, because like they already know all flows about the great Craigslist, and they really want to have this secured, trustful platform. And the last thing that I'm gonna talk today about is our current situation, COVID-19, which is completely a game changer in terms of how we, I don't know, work, how we buy products, how we make decisions, and so on. And just to show you how is it important to make a marketing strategy, is a company called KFC, right? So just before the whole situation, they released globally a cool campaign called "It's Finger Linking Good." Basically, there were like a lot of different video ads, images, saying that, okay, in the KFC, people, they just like lick their hands, their fingers after eating, and it's good. It's really tasteful. Of course, after crisis hit they had to remove these ads from anywhere, and this whole thing like basically stopped. And this is just like one of the example where everything else is also changed. Like from the trends that I saw, and things that might help you. The first is about helping. So like most of the companies, almost every company I know, they became even more social responsible during these days. People understand that sharing is caring, that helping is gonna get you somewhere. For example, my girlfriend, she's working in one of the biggest charity marketplaces in Ukraine, and they received boost from corporate donors, like which they have never seen before. More and more people, they just like are looking for a platform where they can like submit their money, become more social responsible in these days, to save doctors, to help people in need, to make sure that everything's gonna be fine. And for a smaller startup, of course, it's important to earn first to have something to share in the future, but you can be useful to people by doing, for example, webinars, right? Educating them, by making some platform for governmental institutions that will keep people home and safe, and so on. So basically, focus more on helping rather than anything else. The second thing is that a social distance actually means that people are closer, but just they are closer online. So like the Facebook, YouTube, like websites, they got enormous boost in traffic during this time, which is obvious. But it also means that if the people are spending more time on these platforms, it's more time for there to see ads. And usually, on average, a person they see like from 1,000 to 5,000 ads a day. So during this time when we are at home, we see it even more. And like most in demand like professions these days are people who are setting up the targeting for your ads, like PPC managers and so on. So it's super important to understand that you should not stop, you should not use COVID-19 or anything else as the excuse for stopping your marketing strategy. It only means that you should adjust to something that is obvious to happen, like people are staying home, keeping distance, and so on. Last most important thing is I would suggest you to do is to replace so much missed. So when they asked people what they are missing most during the lockdown, most of them were saying that going to live events, basically going workout, daily like communicating habits and so on. So this is some things that they're missing. Obviously, there are much more, like going to restaurants, playing with friends outside, and so on. But during this lockdown, the brands were communicating with their customers using, I don't know, making concerts online, making some video games with their brands and so on. So this is like some strategies that you might use that will help you during this time. But most important thing is to stay safe and help people around. I think that's it for me. I'm sure that you got some questions. I can go and answer them right now, actually.
Yes, you have one question. What to do if you have an idea for a startup but do not understand where to start? What are the recommendations for it?
Yeah, sure. So actually, that's a good question, and I've been in these shoes by myself. You should definitely do what I was just talking about this unlocking the marketing strategy. You should analyze your competition. You should talk to your customers, which is the most important thing to do. When you understand all the problems about them, about your customers, all the successes and your competition, and you set up, then you can follow to your marketing plan. So if you just have a good idea, you should start with analyzing your competition, with creating some cool messaging, finding which channels, marketing channels are going to be useful to you, and basically promote your product there. Is it going to be your landing page using Quora, Facebook, I don't know, Medium, or product hunt launch? It's up to you. It's up to what's trending now.
Thank you. And there is another question. The single slide you quickly showed about Neyra, it actually injected curiosity. Would you quickly demonstrate Neyra?
For sure. Thanks for that. So yeah, basically, I can do a quick demo. So this is actually how it looks like. When you log in into Neyra, you are seeing your after you connected your website. To do so, you would need to just copy paste your tracking code to your website, and after it's connected, you already start receiving data. Data from your website. Let's take this demo account that we have and take from January, for example, it was live. You can see You can see like all the users that visit your website, how many sessions they had, typical average session duration, which is like all website data. But also you will see a number of leads who submitted a form on your website. You would see the conversion rate. You can see like how much each lead actually cost you, if there were any, how many sales there were, what's average cost per sale for each channel, how much did you spend on your ads in total, which is already integrated from your ad accounts,
Okay.
and how
Alex,
much money did you get.
yeah, just stop sharing your screen because we cannot see the Neyra website if you're showing it.
Yeah, I was, didn't you?
No, we didn't.
um,
That's okay.
yeah, sorry for that. Yeah, I'm sharing right now. Can you see now?
Yes, we can.
Cool. Yeah. So as I mentioned, you can install the tracking code on your website, and after that, you are seeing all the important metrics here from specific range daytime that you've selected. And you can also narrow it down by the channels that you've drive traffic with. You can also compare different, for example, ads between each other in terms of how many actual sales you got from that. And it's something that you really would like to do to understand as a like owner or marketer, to understand which ads not just drove traffic to your website, but actually drove you a sales. So in here you can do that and compare them. The next thing is that you can see which devices actually brought you traffic and where people were coming from. And the last thing that we have already done, released, is that you are seeing the location of people regarding their number of sessions, for example, where all your sales came from. And it's, for example, it can be seen with a specific heuristic, like how many, I don't know, how many sales had I done in this city or in this street or so on. So basically, this is the functionality of Neyra these days. A lot of other things are coming. We have a lot of integrations on the roadmap. Right now, we support 5 CRMs, including HubSpot, Amo CRM, Zoho CRM, Pipedrive. So if you're using any of that, or you are like interested in getting the more insightful data, you can always go to our webpage, sign up. We are welcome to anyone.
Thank you for short demo. Here's another question. How much time should we spend on the research before implementation for a startup?
So like I would say that if we follow the Pareto's rule of 80-20, 80% of your time researching, 20% of your time to action. Because action means involvement of your money, most of all, your time commitment of other people and so on. While researching, it's mostly be done by you, and with the proper research, you will be sure that something will give you results. So if I get like, I don't know, someone saying, okay, I think this is a good idea, let's try that. First I would ask like, how much time did you spend on thinking and researching through it? And if they're like, if this number is low, then I would say like, yeah, okay, let's think a little bit more and research more rather than going out. That said, there are like a lot of concepts, like if we follow the MVP, right? So where you should release the features pretty soon to collect the feedback on them. It's like also important to not just like research for 1 year and then release it for another year and so on. No, I mean, like, it should be done profoundly, but not like over the time.
Thank you. And actually, another question about Neyra. What is the main difference between Neyra and Google Analytics?
Yeah, as I mentioned during the presentation, there are a lot of flows with Google Analytics, which, like, we as a marketers, as a people who use it all the time, were unhappy with. We want it to be different. The main and the most crucial difference is that the Google Analytics only tracks your website data. So you just, like, when setting up the Google Analytics, you install the tracking code on your website, and you got just like the number of people visited, cities, and so on. While our platform, it combines all three types of data together: your website data, your sales data, and your ad data, and it all comes together. That means that Google Analytics is basically just a part of Neyra, for example. And it's, I mean, like, the other, like, you can set up a lot of things in Google Analytics, but there are a lot of limitations, which is basically outdated. And it's like the same with the Thomas Ford, who said, like, if I ask the clients, like, it's between the horse and the car difference example.
Thank you. And people are thanking you a lot for amazing slides. Some of them even did the screenshots, and others are asking if you will share the presentation.
For sure, yeah. Feel free to basically. What was the best way to do that, Maria? Reach me out by email, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm gonna share it easily.
Yeah, or you can write to us and we will send you the presentation. And just a quick note from us, we're leaving the Typeform link for feedback about the event in the comments below under the video. So we would love to hear your thoughts. And we have a little present for those who fills in the feedback form that you will get 1 day test day at our co-working hubs, either in Tallinn or in Kyiv. So feel free to send it out. And yes, and then later we can send out the presentation. So I have a question for myself. Well, lots of useful tips, but how to stand out among others? Because right now you just have to be super creative in terms of what are you doing, but at the same time you need to like come up with something unusual to attract attention also to your product.
Yeah. I have, like, when I hear this question, and I hear this a lot, my only suggestion is to talk to your customers. It's like, I can't stress enough how helpful it can be, how many, I don't know, businesses have thrived based on that, because, like, standing out of the competition and have this beautiful $1 million share of yeah, this type of ad idea is super rare, right? So it's most about getting the insights, getting some beautiful ideas, and the creativity can be boosted only by insights, and insights can be driven only by talking to your customer. You cannot get any insight about how you can make your product better by just sitting home, right, and researching the internet. So talk to your customers is the only sure way of getting there, being the best one.
Thank you. And again, another question. How did you come up with the idea for the app Neyra? Whether this was an interesting topic for you or you found the gap in the market and you understand that it will be profitable?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I was working only in Google Analytics. I saw a lot of flaws within this app. And I met my co-founder Eugene, who had this beautiful idea of how it can be changed, which immediately just like blow me up and saying, yeah, okay, let's do that. So yeah, basically you work with this platform. You are seeing the flows. You are talking to other people, how they approach things, or what they are missing, and one day it's just like pop-ups. It's like, yeah, it's easy. We can do this.
Okay, thank you so much. People are like thanking you for the presentation. It was really
Thanks.
Yes, if you have any questions, you can write them to us and we will pass it to Alex and then later reply to you. So if you're watching this video later, thanks again for joining us today and for sharing your insightful thoughts. And so basically, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask, and don't forget to fill in the feedback form. We would really love to hear your thoughts on, and so we can create another great events. Thank you a lot.
Thanks.
Thank you.